Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another formation video where today we have got the best possession slash TIKA formation. So if that's your style of play that you like playing, like that quick passing sort of style of play, this video is going to be absolutely perfect for you. So if you do want to see more, do drop a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel. But starting off, we've got a little question a few people have asked in formation vids. You know, when you're starting in the formation, how do you get all the players on chem? Because if we're using for example, a narrow formation and we've got wingers in there, how do we get them on chem? So what you need to do if you want to do this, you start in a formation like this which gets everyone on chemistry. Now I know Nainggolan is off chem, but I don't mind that because he's a beast. It doesn't matter that he's only on 7 chemistry, but you get everyone on in a formation like this where everybody gets the chemistry that you want. You then go onto your custom tactics, and this is where you D-pad tactic to the tactic that you want. So for example, we're going to play in the 4-1-2-1-2 today, and then you can see on the right hand side the team. Now we get everyone in the positions, so when we go into the game, all we have to do is just on the D-pad tactic, switch to our attacking tactic, and it will switch to this formation, and all your players keep the same chemistry that they start the game on. You're now just able to play them in the desired formation. But with that being said, that desired formation is the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. So this for me, I think is probably going to be the best TIKA formation. The thing is about playing this style of play, you need to have a narrow formation because you need all your players to be really close together, because the idea is that you want to be playing lots of quick, short passing. If you think about Barcelona in their heyday, how they played this style of play, all their players were sort of close together. They played really quick passes. They had lots of possession, but when they did lose the ball back, they did try and win it back really quickly. So for us, we want to play in this 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. As you can see on the right hand side, how close together everyone is, and just lots of quick passes is what we're going to be able to achieve because of the amount, not necessarily because of the amount of triangles that are there as we normally talk about in our videos, but because of the amount of players and how close they are together. We're going to be able to get lots of passes off. There's going to be lots of passing options, but naturally, because it's such a narrow formation, we are giving up that width. As I said in previous video, guys, I want to try and create a really positive community with us, guys. Yes, this game does have issues, but I also want you guys, and I've seen it in the comment section, how many of you guys have been helping each other out when it comes to, some people of you have been asking questions about teams, about players, and it's just really good to see how everyone is interacting with each other. I want to create a positive community, at least if my positive community, you guys, if we have a positive community, and we can try and improve ourselves, because yes, this game does have issues and it isn't perfect. I also think a lot of players use it as an excuse as to reasons to why they lose games. I don't think a lot of people look at themselves and think, am I using the right formation for me? Am I using the right players? Am I doing the right things? And that's what I want us guys, that's what I want my community to think. I want us to think about how we can improve ourselves, not just blame the game like everyone else, and that's how we will get better and everyone else will stay the same. But with that being said, moving into the instructions for this team. Now I think the fullbacks are possibly some of the most important players, if not the most important players in this formation, because how you decide to use your fullbacks I think will determine how successful this formation is. You can see we've actually got them on stay back while attacking. Now the fact that we've given up the width up front, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Now I don't think you want to try and force it with your fullbacks personally. I tried using the fullbacks on balanced and letting them go forward, and it helps out massively in attack because it gives you an option out wide. And some people will ask, why do you need to have the width? Sometimes it's just good to have the width as an option. I think if everything's coming through the middle all the time, sometimes it can become a little bit predictable. Sometimes your opponent can think this is easy to defend because he knows that you can't pass the ball out wide, and sometimes just being able to pass the ball out wide just gives your opponent something else to think about. It can stretch the game, it can open up more passing lanes, because if you pass the ball out wide, his player will have to come out and press you, and it can leave space for one of your midfielders to run into. But we don't have that luxury in this team. I tried going with the fullbacks forward. You can, it does work, but you have to be mindful that it does leave the gaps in behind, in the gaps that they've left. And because you don't have any like wide midfielders, like right midfielders, left midfielders, because you don't have any wingers, there's no one really to slot into that space. Like in that 4-3-2-1 that I use, for example, sometimes my wide midfielders, Nainggolan and Firmino, sometimes they can slot in and protect. Sometimes your wingers, they do come back and slot, not necessarily into the right back position, but even they slot back into the right mid position, which can sometimes just block the passing lane. Not necessarily in filling the position, but sometimes blocking the passing lane. So that is the only reason I went for stay back while attacking. I want to keep that solid back four and just accept that we don't have the width, because we're trying to play a TIKA style of play, so we don't want the width. width. We want the players to be close together, so that's not too much of an issue. Alan, I decided to go on man mark. Now I tried this out in champs this week. If you guys saw how we finished on champs, I'm sure it is on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure you guys have seen it. But we did actually try man mark, and this was really effective. I found this was super effective. But the most effective thing that I found with the CDM, now somebody in the comment section mentioned it, and I said I was going to give it a try. I gave it a try in champs, and it was a game changer for me. On the attacking support, drop between defenders was so effective. I found this was really effective. It was just a very effective tactic. I found that I always had that midfielder. Sometimes when you just have them on stay back while attacking, sometimes they're still not in that position where you want them to be able to just protect and guard your back four. When I played on drop between defenders, this just changed the game for me. It was super effective, so I absolutely recommend you guys doing it. If you're playing a formation that has a CDM, this is the tactic to go for. If you're playing like a flat midfield, then it's not necessarily required, because if they're flat midfielders, they're more box to box mids. But drop between defenders I found was so effective. And then cover centre, as always, want to cover that centre part of the field. Our two outside midfielders I've kept on pretty much balanced. The only difference is I've moved the defensive positions, as I said, to cover centre. Tried on cover wing many times in videos, and I've said to you guys, and you guys know, it's just not the best tactic. I just do not like using it. As I said, I just accept the fact that we don't have the width in this team. That's not how we're trying to play this style. We're trying to play this quick passing, possession-based game. Trying to move up the pitch slowly and methodically, but making sure we've always got some options open. So I think cover centre is the best way to go. We don't want to make our team wider than it needs to be. Neymar at cam, the cam position I've personally left on balanced. I don't even in my teams, I don't ever change the cam. If I'm using a cam, I pretty much just leave him. You could leave him on stay forward if you like, but I think we want our team to, in this situation, because of the style of play we're trying to play, we want everyone to stay in their positions and move up and down the field and keep those same gaps between our players. And up front in the striking department, I've decided to go on a stay central and get in behind. Now this one's a little bit more up for debate. You can set your strikers to drift wide if you want a little bit of width up at the top of the pitch. You could put your strikers to drift wide, and then it does kind of almost become that 4-3-2-1 if you like, because Mbappe and Garrincha will kind of split. And then Neymar, especially if you had Neymar on stay forward, what would happen is he would kind of almost go into a false 9 position, and your two strikers would split. So you could try that and experiment with that and see how that goes. For me personally, because of the personnel that I've got up front, I'm gonna keep it on stay central, keep that narrowness in the team, and get in behind. Obviously, because just because we're playing TIKA and we're playing a possession style of play doesn't mean we don't ever play any through balls in behind to our strikers. And because of the personnel we've got, we want to utilise their strength. So then moving on into the tactics for this formation. Now for me personally, if you've watched any of our formation vids before, guys, you know that we don't really like to change our tactics too much. For me, I don't think they are the most important. I think the most important thing for me, I think instructions are always more important than tactics. I never find that changing tactics too much makes too much of a difference. Defensive style, we always want to keep the defensive style on balance. You could try playing on a press, as I said at the start of the video. If you want to go back to Barcelona and how they used to play this, they always used to try and win the ball back really quickly, and then they would just suffocate their opponents with the amount of possession they had. So if you want to play on a press, you can absolutely go and try that. It is effective playing on a press, but obviously it has its risk, as everything does in FIFA. For me personally, I always play on balance. Now what I would say to you, if you are the sort of person that can try and learn to press manually yourself, if you look at, like, for example, when any pros play, they don't play on a press or anything like that because they press so well themselves. They don't need to play a press. I think for me what's more important is if you can try and learn to press yourself and press your opponent, like he would maybe then start to mentally think you're playing on a press, but it's just because you are so good at doing it. That's what you really want your opponent to think. If you can start playing on a press manually and you can leave yourself on balanced, on defensive style, that is when you'll really take your game to the next level, because you're keeping the stability and team shape because you're staying on balance. When you're going to press, you obviously go all out of position. You know, everyone goes out and crazy for a few seconds. If you can learn to press yourself and stay on balance, that's when you'll notice a massive difference in your game. Width-wise, I decided to keep it on 4 because we've already got quite a narrow formation. I don't want to make it too narrow because then it becomes a little bit too difficult to play because everyone gets on each other's toes, and I don't want to go too wide because obviously it negates the point of the formation and the tactic we're trying to play. Depth wise, this for me is sometimes a little bit more down to how you play. For me, I always keep my depth on 6. I don't mind leaving a little bit of spacing behind. Again, sometimes that's down to personnel, what personnel you've got in defence. Because of the personnel that I've got in defence, all my defenders are wearing shadows, so they've all got very quick pace. You know, their pace is all in the 90s, so I can afford to play a little bit of a higher line because if the ball does go in behind, I've got the pace to recover. So this is more down to how you want to play. I think if you want to play a little bit higher up the pitch and kind of pressure your opponent in, playing on a higher depth is the way to go. Offensive style, of course, we want to play on possession because if we want to play that TIKA possession style of play, we obviously want to go on possession. We want everyone coming to the ball, and we want to be playing lots of quick passes. If you want to still have a little bit of option in behind, you could play long ball because if you've got quick strikers, you could definitely go and try long ball out. Fast build up is a possibility as well. You could also try fast build up. If you want to hold possession and pass the ball really quick and play a lot of quick passes, playing fast build up is a good way to go, but you have to be mindful that it could start to pull some of your players out of position. So that is the risk when playing fast build up. But I think for the purpose of the vid, I would personally say stick to possession. Width wise in offense, I'm going to go for 6. As I said in previous vids, I often say try and keep your width on offense and defense the same, but I've experimented recently and I've actually found that having a little bit more width on offense than defense is a little bit more effective in my opinion. It just seems to be something that works, especially for me, and when trying out a lot of these formations it seems to work pretty well as well. Players in the box, stand on 5. I never really change that too much. Corners, this is obviously down to more interpretation, how you use your corners. For me, 2 or 3 is kind of where I use corners. Sometimes I go short, sometimes I cross it in the box, see if I can win a header, but I don't really have too many corner routines. And I have my own free kick routines, and they typically involve me shooting at the goal, so I don't need too many players in the box. But that is it for the TIKA possession-based style guide and formation. So if you do want to see any more vids, make sure you drop a thumbs up and make sure you hit that subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel. As I said, guys, I want our community, this little community that we are building here, I want us to be a really positive outlook on FIFA. And yes, this game isn't perfect, and yes, it could be better, but I want us to try and look at ourselves first and how we can improve before we blame the game, because everyone else, you know, in every other community, and how they play the game, they're entitled to play it how they want. But I think a lot of people moan about this game and don't look at their own performances first. So I want us guys to try and improve ourselves as players, and then we'll see a lot bigger results before everyone else does. So if you do want to see more vids, make sure you drop a thumbs up, make sure that subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel. And that's all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.